So the first thing we do is we'd adopt the agenda.
Yes, and I was wondering, is it okay to add one item to the agenda, Stuart?
Probably.
Okay. I'd like to discuss us working on a comprehensive plan for Crocker Industrial Park for sort of recovering wetlands and really enhancing the open space and the plant space that's currently in Crocker Industrial Park. We're losing probably half at least of the trees that are currently in the park, and sort of wondered if that was something that we could work on. Or is that something that we should ask the council if we can work on?
Well, I think it's something you can ask the council if you could work on. I don't think it's it's not a matter of urgency, and I don't know how far the challenge with the Brown Act is we don't have it on the agenda, so if somebody wants to comment on it, they wouldn't have known to come tonight.
Okay.
But we could add it to the next month's agenda, so we
Okay.
can talk about it.
Well, I just was curious if everyone is interested in that and sort of developing a comprehensive plan for Crocker Industrial Park that's more environmentally friendly. Yeah.
If you want to put it on the agenda, we can put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Put it at the end of the agenda on other committee matters, and then we can get through the important items on the agenda first.
Yeah, okay. So with that as at the bottom of the agenda, shall we adopt the agenda?
Sure.
I move.
I second.
Who moved? Because I actually have to take my own notes. I forgot this.
Glenn moved, Kima seconded.
What's at the bottom of the agenda?
Discussion about whether we want to work on a comprehensive plan for Crocker Industrial Park that's a bit more environmental and ecological.
Sure.
Including sort of a plan for the wetlands. Okay, so the first thing is oral communications for items not on the agenda.
I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, so let's go on to the 350.org and fossil fuel divestment information packet. Glenn, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. I just sent Stuart, we talked about this last time, and I sent Stuart a bunch of stuff, and he sent it to you. What I'm hoping you all read, and I kind of doubt if you have had time to read it, but I hope you will read it for some point in the near future, and that's Bill McKibben's article called Global Warming's Terrifying New Math. Did anybody get a chance to read it? It was included in the electronic packet that Stuart sent out. There's also a much longer 37-page document having technical details on paths that institutions can take to divestment. And I wasn't really anticipating that people would read that, certainly not for this meeting, but I thought Stuart might be interested in it. So, oops, sorry. So did anybody read Bill McKibben's Global Warming's Terrifying New Math?
I printed out the packet, and that did not print out.
The details did.
Yeah, I got all of the divestment stuff, but I didn't.
So there was a link to this in the packet. So
I did not see that. I printed the packet,
okay.
and so it did not come up.
It came out.
Stuart, could you send the link again to us?
Sure.
Okay, just the link,
I think I might have read
Okay.
it anyway.
because I couldn't open the packet at the time. Of course, we were having computer issues with AT&T, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so let's do that, the electronic packet.
So actually,
resend link.
I'll forward Glenn's email to everybody,
Okay,
so that Glenn's email has the link in it,
okay.
Well,
and other links as well.
Apparently read the unimportant stuff. I read the divestment thing.
Oh my gosh, Barbara, you did.
I had to slap myself a few times, but I read it.
So what did you think?
I don't think it applies to me. I certainly hope that it can apply to the city. I know that he said with CalPERS we don't have as much control, but they outlined 3 scenarios, which if you are an investment broker, seem like they're all very reasonable and possible. That made it very concrete.
As I mentioned last time, what I hope the city will do, and what I hope this committee will advise the city to do at some point, is to communicate with the state funds with which Brisbane's money is invested, because we don't control most of those investments ourselves, and ask those state funds, please, to divest from fossil fuel. And the purpose of that long article really was just to show that there are plausible ways to do it. There are plausible ways to do it that will not result in bankruptcy. And so I'm hoping that in the fall, the committee will take up a motion to pass this on to the council with our recommendation that the council divest. Or ask for divestment. I would also like to report that last week I attended a meeting of the San Francisco State University Foundation, which is not huge. It's got $50-some million in invested funds, so it's not really a huge amount of money. I mean, yes, to any of us, it's a huge amount of money, but in terms of
Institution,
an institutional budget, it's not all that much money. Nonetheless, a bunch of students on campus who have been working on a divestment campaign met with them and asked them to divest, and they considered it at their board meeting last week and pretty much said, yeah, great, let's do it. So divestment is taking off, and I'm just hoping that Brisbane will get on the bandwagon for whatever it's worth, realizing that Brisbane does not, we don't have a whole lot of sway, but like some of the other things that the city has done, even the bag ban, the rodenticide ban, and things like that. I think part of the point here is educational. It's sending a message to the public that we think that climate change is a really urgent problem, and that there's no action of significance being taken at the federal level. And so this is kind of a kick in the pants that we ought to do. The McKibben article, and I'll just say a couple things since you guys haven't read it, I think it's one of the most powerful discussions of climate change for regular people that I've ever read. McKibben is a really long-time activist and journalist. He's got big friends in the climate science community, so all his science is vested. And when he talks about the math, he gives some numbers in this article, not a whole lot of numbers. But one of them is 595 billion tons of carbon dioxide. That's what people call the global carbon budget. That is the amount of space that we have left in the atmosphere that can take up carbon dioxide, and it's not very much space. That is a global amount, and that is to keep the atmosphere, that is to have reasonable certainty that if we limit our future aggregate emissions to 595 billion tons of carbon dioxide, that we have a reasonable chance of keeping the temperature increase to 2 degrees Celsius or less. That doesn't guarantee it. It's a reasonable chance. Another number he gives in here is 2,795 tons of carbon dioxide, and that is what is left in the fossil fuel reserves that the fossil fuel industry now calculates as part of their reserves. In other words, it's bankable. It's what they base the value of their companies on. So what he does is compare those two numbers, and he says, this is the emissions budget, the 595 billion tons, and this is what the fossil fuel industry has that they want to burn. And if they do burn that, we are clearly toast. We are clearly toast.
Burnt toast.
Burnt toast. Yeah. So I think he does a really good job on the article. He gives in it arguments for divestment. He summarizes the dismal state of action on climate and says, nothing else much is going on. Let's give this a shot. So I'll wind it up there. If anybody has questions, I'll try to answer them.
I want to say that last time I kind of felt like this divestment strategy didn't go far enough. Like I wanted to go and have all the money put into ethical. What's this thing they have called? I'm not going to find it in time. ESG, I believe, which is ethical something,
Sustainable.
yeah,
Yeah.
something. And I'd love to see all the funds go that way. But I think I read that in my doctor's office, so I didn't miss it entirely. But I think I was speaking too much from where I'm at as a person, because as a person, I feel ready to tackle all 10 things at once. But in mulling it over since our last meeting, I think that Glenn, you, and Mr. McKibben have an excellent point that not everybody is ready to fight a battle on all four corners. And so that I want to fully move myself behind doing whatever we can to move forward with this divestment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to lend my voice in support of the divestment strategy. I've seen it be successful in other issues. When I was going to school, there was a strong move to divest from South Africa and the apartheid regime. And I would say that more than anything else would be credited with actually turning the tide, not only in public perception, but also in the actual money flowing to the regime. And so I think that the challenges are at least one order of magnitude larger, if not more. But in my, when they say that, money makes the world go round, it's really one step at a time. A billion here, a billion there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. So if we can help Brisbane divest itself, then that can be an example for other municipalities and jurisdictions that might also be considering it, and we can be a role model. So I definitely support that.
Yeah, I think pretty much we're all of the same mind that a pebble in the pond makes ripples, and so let's toss the pebble, see what happens.
I think Mary had some objections last time, so we might not all be in agreement. We haven't heard from Elena yet either.
I got a nod.
Oh, yeah?
Long ago, I've asked my investment broker to not invest in oil companies, and that he did. But they're very hesitant to invest in green businesses. So that was last time I had that battle position. But I can revisit it. Things change.
If I could just say one thing, thanks, Kima, for, oh, I'm sorry, Mary, did I cut you off?
Yeah, you didn't say it.
Go.
No, it's all right.
I apologize.
Yeah, I guess I'm not, I've kind of been convinced in the course of my life that you don't go to the polluters and ask them to stop. So I guess I think that the focus of climate work should be on the government, on people who are actually somewhat who are able to and somewhat likely to change the way that oil companies do business, at least in this country. And I don't think the oil companies are likely to do that. So that's my only hesitation. I'm not exactly against it, it's just that I don't know how effective it's going to be.
I don't know how effective it's going to be either, but that's the dilemma, and so therefore we still have to, I think, try. And I think you're of like minds.
Response? May I respond?
Yeah, of course.
So just a couple things. I think the point here is to try to attach an opprobrium to fossil fuel companies. I don't think anybody, certainly not Bill McKibben, thinks that they're going to be bankrupted by divestment. They weren't in the case of South Africa either. It was to attach moral opprobrium to the fossil fuel industry. And I think you're totally right, Mary, that this is a problem that needs to be dealt with by government. The question is how to get government off the dime. I have spoken to Jackie Spear 3 times now about this issue. personally, and for quite a long time, most recently in October when I went down as a part of a delegation, but I've also met with her by myself. And she now says, and I believe her, that she understands how urgent the problem is. And when I went with the delegation last fall, we were asking her to support, that is, co-sponsor a carbon tax. And, you know, one of the fundamental things that every expert thinks needs to happen is putting a price on carbon emissions. And her response to us, and I went as a part of an outfit called the Citizens Climate Lobby, so I work on multiple fronts, and I think everybody else should too. Her response to us was that she was not willing to invest a lot of time and energy in this because she didn't see public support. So, you know, we argued with her, and I think one of the reasons, at least personally, one of the reasons I'm interested in the divestment campaign is that when people like her can start reading in the San Francisco Chronicle that the San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted to divest, that the San Francisco State University Foundation voted to divest, that the Seattle City Council voted to divest, I think that will help build a momentum for political action, because you're totally right. I mean, I don't think divestment is about trying to bankrupt the oil industry or to try to get them to change their ways. I don't think they're the right people to launch a renewable energy transition anyhow. It is to try to get government off the dime, and we're running out of ways to do that.
Yeah, and if I could just add, divestment doesn't always work. The divestment campaign for Israel was a failure, and so it's a part of a strategy, you know, where you think globally, you act locally, and you have to take every step possible. Divestment is one thing, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a place for venture capital to invent new technologies. There isn't a place for people to make individual decisions in their lives about whether they're going to take public transportation or not. But it's part of a strategy to build a momentum, and so we don't know how it's going to end, but we can't leave any of the tools in the toolbox. We have to try all of the things that are at our disposal.
Okay. Anyone else?
Before we go forward, and I should have thought of this earlier, Stuart, would you introduce this person that we've never met?
Sure. At the last meeting when Lisa left, we talked a little bit about the transition process for the Open Space and Ecology Committee meeting, for the Open Space and Ecology Committee. So the city this summer is having the fortunate benefit of having 2 interns available to work with the Open Space and Ecology Committee. To my left is Tony Aguilar. He is he will be a sophomore at Portland University? Okay, Portland University. His major is in environmental science. He is going to help us work on matters that are not related to the draft DIR during the summer. One of the things I've got him investigating right now is climate action plans. If you remember, that is one of the areas that the mayor, when he came and spoke in front of the Open Space and Ecology Committee, had asked the Open Space and Ecology Committee to start working on. With a lot of other things that we've been doing, we haven't had much opportunity to put any time towards that. So I figured with an intern, we can begin to put some time to that. We will also have another intern joining us. Her name is Christina. I'm gonna try and remember the last name. Pelafini, I believe. She is. She's got one more semester left at San Luis Obispo. Her major is also environmental science. She is one of the classes that she has taken is in fact on CEQA and EIRs. So she will be joining us at your next meeting. She starts Monday. So I'm going to have her working with the committee on helping the committee work through their drafting of comments on the draft DIR. So that's our transition for the summer. And we are beginning to think about what do we do after the summer is over, working with council on that.
Thank you, Stuart.
Welcome.
And I'd just like to take a moment then to, Lisa wrote us a card, and I meant to do this during oral communications, but I forgot, and I'll pass it around. And it says, Dear Michelle, Mary, Glenn, Sean, Barbara, Elena, and Kima, thank you so much for your thoughtful and generous gifts, the beautiful basket, handmade bag, book, gift certificate, glass paperweights, and of course, the exquisite photos of San Bruno Mountain in Brisbane. I am deeply grateful to you and touched by your kind wishes. It has been a privilege to get to work with each of you as individuals and as a committee. You bring incredible dedication, intelligence, and passion to protecting the environment. I wish you continued success in all your endeavors. With heartfelt gratitude, Lisa I can never pronounce her last name. Pontecorvo. So you can pass this. So let's go on to invasive species in San Bruno, on San Bruno Mountain and other locations in Brisbane. Yeah,
Madam Chair,
yes.
does the committee want to take action right now on fossil fuel divestment? Can we, Stuart?
I guess the question is, what action would the committee want to take? I mean, I'm just not quite sure what the action,
To pass a resolution asking the council to write a letter, basically, to communicate with.
so the action you would want is to have the city council write a letter to PERS to ask that they divest.
Yes.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you feel there's anything we need to do in preparation for council to consider the matter?
I think council, part of it is going to be, council's going to want to have an understanding of who else is divesting, which, we do have, what the implication of PERS divesting would be, what the hope for the committee has of that. What might be helpful is, council is dark in July. So maybe if somebody on the committee drafts a potential letter for council to send, that might be what would be useful. And then you can bring that back to your July meeting, your August meeting, and then have council, so have the letter that you're going to ask council to send.
So I think, are we all in agreement that we'd like to do that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we need to have the equivalent of a staff report, which is something that Lisa would have done.
Right.
And so we need to put that together. We might kind of need to put that together ourselves.
Well, we could, the challenge is, with the draft DIR, we've got meetings coming up, 2 meetings a week for the next couple of weeks. I would imagine there's going to be a lot of time spent on reviewing the draft DIR, not only by the committee members, but also by staff. That, it's one of those questions, and I thought what we had talked about last time was maybe looking at this more towards the October timeframe after the draft DIR was done. But if you want to, try and move forward, we could put a staff report together about it. But as I said, I think maybe having one of the committee members draft the letter that they would like council to send might be useful.
So I think that the world doesn't come to an end because we have the draft DIR. And I think we should go ahead and proceed with this. And Glenn, I know it's hard to ask one member to do this, but you are the point person on this, and I would like to request you write the letter because you are most knowledgeable about this.
I have no idea how exactly to write this kind of a letter, but what I will do is take a shot at it, and I'm going to be gone for a while, and so maybe what I could do is take a shot at it, show it to the committee, or else pass it on to Stuart and get some advice, because I'm sure there are ways a letter like this should be worded that I probably don't know how to do.
Okay. And then will you be here for the July meeting or not?
What's the date on that again? I don't
We
think
haven't
so.
set the July meeting. So let's
Second Wednesday in July.
I don't think so.
move forward with this.
We can bring it back to the August meeting.
And put it on the August agenda for a resolution to put it to the council
Okay, I'll at least try to get something drafted by then. And, then we can look at it, and maybe Stuart will then pass it on. We can do a group edit or something, and Stuart can pass it on and get legal advice.
Okay,
But we can be started, so that's fine.
I think that sounds like a good action plan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next item on the agenda is invasive species on San Bruno Mountain and other locations in Brisbane. And this was brought up as an agenda item by Barbara, and I agreed because there's a lot of discussion that we should have about this item and not just the few things that you wanted to bring up. But did you want to speak to this first, Barbara?
Sure. The two things that have come to my attention just since our last meeting, and there was a couple, don't let me jump ship, was that there's a lot of French broom along the bridge on Tunnel Road, and I assume the city is responsible for that area, but I don't actually know how that process happens and who takes care of it, or if our city workers even have a, eradicate the French broom plague directive anywhere, because I did notice it growing there pretty,
Rampantly.
yeah.
Yeah. We have, in our budget, at this point, tentatively 15,000. I asked for an extra 5,000 on Monday night during the budget hearing. So that would be $20,000, and maybe even more if we really could outline a program for more invasive species management and habitat management from the city's point of view. And Stuart, do you want to enlighten us on how that exactly works and how we should proceed with that?
Can I respond to that? One of the things that we've been say people from the Technical Advisory Committee have been talking about on San Bruno Mountain for many years is that you don't necessarily take this limited amount of money you have and throw it at the worst infestation. One of the things they did on San Bruno Mountain was they got this grant to eradicate, to kill a bunch of gorse. And then the grant ran out, and the gorse grew back, and there it is.
Lots of it.
If you have limited resources, in my opinion, it's very important to use those resources to protect the best areas of habitat and work out from there. Unfortunately, there are areas that are just hideously disturbed that would require intensive and and many years of effort to restore, and the resources are not there unless some individual who's going to be around for the next 30 or 40 years decides to adopt those areas for stewardship. So I feel strongly that we don't want to spend a lot of money on stuff along Bayshore Boulevard or even very far down in town. That if we have extra money that we can spend, we should spend it in the acres. We should spend it
In the interface zone.
to protect to protect habitat. As Michelle said, there are lots of possibilities for wetland restoration. If we had, the wetland will kind of vegetate itself, but I do think that the public works can go out and cut the stuff down so that it doesn't go to seed, and we should ask them to do that.
Yeah, that was my main thought, just to chop it back so that it's not becoming part of the fuel.
And part of the seed bank, continuing
Seed bank,
to
yeah.
contribute to the seed bank. I was just explaining, and I agree with Mary.
That should not come out of our budget.
Yeah, and I was going to say that what we have in our budget, I'm hoping to parlay better this year in terms of using volunteer help and spending that money on the management of the volunteer help to work more in the interface zone up along where we meet the habitat that's most pristine and most in need of protection. Glenn?
Weren't we last meeting talking about having another volunteer day?
Yeah, we were talking about having hopefully a volunteer day in the fall to do Firth Canyon.
Okay.
Because we did, the Costañas Canyon, and we didn't want to leave Firth Canyon alone either. But we could try to organize more volunteer days and utilize the funds that we have in the habitat restoration to organize volunteer days, not with T-shirts, not with porta potties, not with, all the hoopla that we do on our normal once-a-year volunteer day, but maybe have more regular volunteer days, somewhat like what Mountain Watch does.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Mountain Watch already does that. Is there any way, because you're on the Mountain Watch board, that we could maybe help with their volunteer days because, to increase the turnout or something?
We absolutely could help with their volunteer days. We always need more volunteers on the mountain. But what I'm thinking of is their focus is on the grassland habitat and the mountain in the areas that aren't part of the city of Brisbane. But things like what Barbara brings up and Firth Park Canyon and other areas within the city limits of Brisbane that Mountain Watch doesn't really focus on is areas where we could maybe have a splinter group of Brisbane citizens who are willing to work in Brisbane and have maybe Mountain Watch's expertise, guide us through those, or Mike Forbear usually works with his own team, but just sort of work out a better management plan for addressing a lot of the invasive species, and then also we still really need to focus a lot on community outreach about not planting invasive species.
Yeah.
Which is partly what our brochure is about, but I think, Barbara, you had something else that you noticed that people are starting to actually grow.
Yeah, I brought this. It was beautiful. I gave Stuart the proper name for it, but I don't remember what it is. It was in the email. I can't pronounce it.
Purple?
It's purple.
Oh, yes.
And if you want to refer to it from a culinary standpoint, it's salsify. If you want to refer to it as a weed, then it's goat's beard. And it's actually a very valuable edible. But you can see the seeds are these giant dandelion-like seeds. And I think somebody had it in cultivation and let it go. And yeah. I mean, I have it in cultivation, but I bag the heads so that it can't get away from me. But somebody had it in cultivation up near the school, and so I've been seeing it kind of propagating through town. And I don't know if it qualifies as an invasive species or not, but if it got up onto the mountain, it certainly would not be a
Benign thing.
great improvement to the habitat.
Yeah, I mean, scabiosa 60 years ago wasn't an invasive species on the mountain until Mrs. Edelman planted it on Trinity Road, and we all tracked through it going up onto the mountain. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how it gets started. And then
So it's your fault.
it is.
Now we know who, okay, now we know who to blame.
I mean, I am partially responsible. I collected it, I brought home little bouquets of it, I spread it all over the place because it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how the invasives get a big hold. And, people are still planting certain grasses that I wonder, I mean, is it the new pampas grass? And, people need to know, really, we need to focus on what the invasives are and get kind of a citywide campaign for eradication of those things before they get started. And so we might even make it a regular feature in the Star, Stuart.
I mean, as we have room, that would be great.
Yeah.
So also as part of the transition period, until we have more permanent staff, I've asked Peter Styler to help us with our vegetation management plans. So we do have somebody who, I'm in contact with him. I will let him know what the thoughts of the committee are, and if he can come up with some kind of game plan for how we can deal with all these kinds of issues.
Yeah, and maybe a sort of a walk-around assessment of where we're at, not just in the interface zone, but also in Brisbane and in particular at the Northeast Ridge, since a lot of this is windborne, and there are a lot of areas of the Northeast Ridge that are now Brisbane's public property that need an invasive species management to return to the grasslands that it was supposed to be maintained as. Is there any other discussion on this, for this item?
I have no update from Sanford on that
Okay. Ken's been running pretty thin. And we've had a lot on our plate the last month or two. So if anybody wants to step up and do some work on working with him on the brochure and the plant list, that would be really, really helpful.
I've been thinking about the brochure and,
Or brochures.
brochures maybe, that we would do one that's aimed at protecting the mountain, meaning, getting rid of the invasives, and one that's aimed at gardening for local wildlife.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I think that's a great idea.
Oh, Mark Salmon said they saw a jackrabbit in their backyard this morning.
Awesome.
I love that.
So,
That's what that's just what I started to think about, so.
okay.
That part of the plan,
Lovely.
do the mountain and
Right.
home,
Yeah.
Right,
backyard.
right, and that the home one would be aimed at gardening for local wildlife, birds, bees, butterflies,
And not.
And not planted.
and not invasives, but that it would also be redundant, you'd mention it again, but the main focus would be,
Yeah, I think a lot of people come here and they don't realize that they're part of an endangered species habitat and how precious it is until they've, planted something really awful in their yard. Okay, so council matters, the rodenticide update.
Council adopted the resolution that got brought forward.
Yes, I attended the meeting in case they wanted somebody to say something about it, but they, yeah. So now I think that we need to do some community outreach and some education about what we've actually passed, and maybe even draft a letter to go out to all of the businesses in the industrial park and in all the industrial parks and in Brisbane about second-generation rodenticide, because that is really who's using the bulk of it in our city limits. So how can we, normally, we would have Lisa draft that, but maybe Tony might be interested in drafting something like that after reading the rodenticide information with your leadership, Stuart?
That could be.
Okay, so maybe we could bring that back to the next meeting for approval and then distribution? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the open space and ecology's participation in the Day in the Park. And I kind of want to move that down in case, in the agenda, in case Sean shows up, because I'm hoping.
Sean is not planning to show up till at least 7:30, if not 8 o'clock.
That's only in 15 minutes.
That's approaching quickly, yes.
Yeah, but I think that we need to start working on our open space and ecology committee plan for the Day in the Park. It's one of our best outreach days to the community where we really have a big opportunity to talk with a lot of people. So we need to really brainstorm what we're going to have for our booth that would be exciting and interactive and educational and razzle-dazzle all in one thing.
Yeah.
What's the date on that again? I mean, I should know by now, but it's,
first
First
Saturday.
Saturday in October.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, having done that with Sean last year, I can say that Sean's exhibit on biochar was really a hit, and there was a lot of interest in what he had, and I think that would fit also well with some of the information that, really should get out there about invasive species that we were just talking about. That would probably be some of the really good stuff to focus on.
I did that article for the pant bag. Whatever happened to that?
Article for what?
Pam,
Never saw that.
The bags, yeah. I wrote it, and it went to Stuart, and it was going to go in the
City News.
City News.
I think we were going to put it into the Star, and unfortunately, at that time, the Star had didn't have enough space for it. It had too much and too little kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was that in between. So we still have that. We will get that.
Okay, but we'd also discussed about maybe doing that at, making pant bags that was something that was discussed about maybe doing it at the Day in the Park.
Like patterns or something.
Yeah.
Caroline's sitting here whispering in my ear. It is on the Wood City's website. We put it as part of the blog, so it is on the Wood City's website as well.
Oh, okay.
So we did send that out to everybody who gets the City Blast.
I wonder if we could if we could actually make them out.
Yeah, I'm willing, if I can get a plug or two.
Oh, you can
for a
get
sewing
plugs.
machine, I can bring my sewing machine down there and set under an awning, and people can bring me pants, and I can give them back pant bags.
How long does it take you to make a pant bag?
15, 20 minutes, if I'm concentrating.
Stuart can get you wired.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can do that.
So when you put in your request to the Parks and Recreation Department as to what you want at your booth, you would just say electricity. Because there's a form that is filled out.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I have been sending emails around to various institutions that do footprint calculators. And I got an email back from Berkeley saying they would give us the data for their calculator. They haven't gotten them to follow through on it yet, but we were talking about making that installation, and we could also potentially, because I somehow feel like the world is going to slow down very soon, maybe we could debut that at the Day in the Park.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So what, they're going to give it to you as a sort of ready-to-go thing?
No.
Yeah, it's not going to, we have to make the physical object, but the data as to like,
Wait, physical object.
yeah,
The calculator.
the physical calculator.
Oh,
But they said they'd give me the data behind the carbon footprint thing. I haven't seen the data yet, so I can't,
Let's see the.
I can't clarify.
How do you transition it into 3D? Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. But I'm sure we can do something.
Yeah, the California Academy of Sciences had a really cool one first opened, and maybe we could just tap them and, borrow their design and
Yeah.
build it ourselves. Okay.
Maybe they have theirs in a warehouse somewhere, and we can just borrow the whole darn thing.
yeah, so you're talking about a physical thing or a computer program?
A physical thing.
Physical thing to calculate carbon footprint?
Yep.
I've done it. I mean, I've gone up to the thing and you move levers and weights to, like how many airplane rides have you taken this year? And
I see.
how big's your house, how much, and how far do you drive, and there's this balance thing, and all of a sudden you do one air flight and it goes,
Yeah.
It's like a weight-based calculator where
okay.
the weight is based on the different things that you do.
Yeah.
And-
but we were
Okay,
also
so
thinking of something that was more like an abacus that we would,
Yeah.
Because the ones I've seen are on computers, I've never
Yeah.
seen.
oh, the physical ones are fun.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, I'll bet they
And
are.
very enlightening. And I think about it every time I get on an airplane, that I just blew my carbon footprint for the next 5 years,
Yep.
So I'm really, really good on everything until I get on that plane.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's leave that item just open a little bit in case Sean does come, and let's go on to update on the work plan discussion. So, update on the work plan discussion.
Yes, this was, you said you wanted to talk about some of the items that we were working on.
Yeah, so the carbon footprint calculator is one of the items, day in the park is one of them, and I think way back
Brochures.
here,
The brochures.
the brochures. And do you remember what meeting we had our work plan?
February or something.
I should have had that ready, sorry. But we have a lot of things on the work plan that we're working on, and there's a lot of stuff that we haven't been working on.
But we have the DIR now.
Pardon?
We have this.
Yeah, so we have the draft DIR now, but I don't want the things that are on our work plan to fall off of a work plan. And one of them was bringing the polystyrene ban forward to the council.
Right. There was, I think they were waiting for information from the committee on alternatives. I think that's where it was.
Is that where it was?
Yeah.
No, I think we talked about that in March or April. I think what they're waiting for is feedback from businesses. And we were,
Doing a survey or
we need a
Oh.
list.
Kima and I.
And we provided that list.
Kima and I volunteered
That's
to
it.
draft a letter, and we haven't done it.
Right.
Okay.
Oh,
That's where it was.
My fault. I should have pinged you.
yeah, it's Kima's fault.
Okay.
I'd like to make that clear.
So it's Michelle's fault that we have invasives on the mountain, and Kima's fault that we have polystyrene in the city.
Absolutely.
Global warming is a direct result of her air travel.
Now, we're already blaming her for the mountain. You can't blame her for two different things.
Well, she did just go to, where did you just go?
admit to it.
Yeah, I went to Greece and
She just went to
and
Greece.
other areas in that
So I
neighborhood.
think the EU currency devaluation is probably also your fault since you're in Greece.
I think she tried to prop it up as best she could.
I did, I helped the Greek economy.
Yeah, I was gonna
swear I
say,
did.
don't
The
blame her
burdens on
that.
the OSEC are very heavy. Now you know. Yeah.
So we are waiting for Kima and Mary to draft the letter, because I know we provided the list of
Right.
businesses.
Okay.
So let's get together and do that.
Yes.
I love that.
All right.
Then the Sustainability Committee update.
Sustainability Committee update. Oh.
Well, we're finally in a position where we can start the flyer of the simple, what is sustainability? I had to get moved first, so
Okay.
we're moved. So we can start on that.
Okay, so let's put an update for that on the next month's agenda.
Which Sustainability Committee are we talking about?
The internal one for this, for the open space ecology, where they were going to come up with information about what does sustainability mean. I think that's what Michelle was talking about, as opposed to the citywide
Sorry.
one that you're on.
Right,
Right.
right. There were two Ray brought up, yeah.
Okay. My apologies.
And then the green building ordinance, where are we at with that one?
I'll have to check with John and Ken. I think it's.
I'm sure it's on hold.
I know I don't remember who the member was. That you again, Glenn?
It was
on that?
Kima and I were both.
And I-
Weren't you on the green building?
I was
Yeah.
on the green building, yes.
Right.
Yeah, we
So Lisa was doing that. So where did you guys end with that one?
Our understanding was we were done. The committee's work was done.
So it's going to the
and-
planning commission at next.
Yeah, I mean, we might want to confirm with Ken
Okay.
Johnson, but I believe that there was a draft ordinance was circulated, and then it was going to be forwarded to the council.
Well, I think it was going to go after the through the planning commission before it would go to council.
And it would have gone to us too, right? So the committee and the commission would
I
have
think so.
looked at it, and then it
So
would...
I'll check with Ken,
Okay.
or Tony will check
Our
with
last
Ken.
meeting, it was March or something, wasn't it?
December, was it?
No, we met after the first of the year, at least once.
Maybe it was in January.
Yeah, it was, because we've been done for a long time,
We haven't had meetings for a long time, at
Yeah.
least that I know.
Yeah.
which is fine, but even more satisfying because we were supposedly done.
Yes, I felt good about it.
So we haven't, but we need to see the results, so we need some
Yeah.
follow-up
Right.
on that. And then, was there a CAG meeting this month to report on? Just trying to make sure we,
Yeah,
everything.
the most recent CAG meeting just dealt with internal things like finding a new fiscal sponsor and getting a new bank account. And
Okay,
anyway, we don't need to go into that. But we're going to be working on the draft DIR.
okay. And then, I guess haven't had any luck in recruiting a litter volunteer person. I saw the great article with the picture of the bicycle. No one's called.
No one's called.
Where was the article?
There's a shock.
There was a picture of the bicycle and an article, I believe it was in the Star or the Brisbane City
Probably the City News.
City News.
Yeah.
Okay. So Stuart, Thursday for the farmer's market, do you think you could bring the bike out and bike around the park a few times?
No.
Come on, Stuart, where's your promotion in our committee?
on, t-shirt.
Okay, we still need to work on that. And was there anything else that was on our work plan that we should get caught up on before we? One thing that I just want to say that I think is really important, I know that we're going to be all consumed with this 3,000-page document, but the world doesn't come to an end on all the other things that we're doing just because we're doing this, even though this is the most important work that we have in front of us for a while. So I don't want us to drop the ball on the things that we've been working on for months as we move forward over the next couple of months.
I'll second that.
I would just like to say, I understand what you're saying, and I think that's possible to some extent.
Yeah.
We all have limited, time and energy, and
Yeah.
but I do think that our meetings are going to have to be devoted to discussion of the draft DIR. I don't think we're going to be able to spend much meeting time unless we want to have extra meetings and go till 11 o'clock, and I won't do it.
No.
I won't go till 11 o'clock. I would go to an extra meeting here and there, but, so I think we need to really reserve our meeting time for discussing the draft DIR.
For the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the window.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
And maybe just have a 10-minute update on each thing that were our current projects.
Yeah, updates don't take much time, but I agree, it's daunting.
Okay.
I was going to ask, by the way, if we make a mistake and drop this on our foot, do we get workers' comp?
You're not an employee.
Volunteer.
Now, if a council member did, they might.
So that doesn't
no.
sound right. You give away your labor for free, and if you hurt yourself,
You don't
you
want
have to bear the
workers'
full cost.
Stuart,
You could file a claim against the city, but we would probably deny it based on the fact that it wasn't our fault that you dropped it on your foot.
I just had a question. Is this printed on recycled paper?
I have no clue.
Well, okay, so it looks
I'm
like.
sure there's portions of that are recycled.
It looks like we're on to the next item, which is update on the draft EIR for the Baylands. Stuart, when's it coming out?
I haven't been told yet.
Okay, that would be yesterday.
Exhibit A.
It was released yesterday morning.
Wow.
And we're not done with it yet?
You could be if you want to be.
It only weighs probably 8 or 9 pounds.
So what you have before you is the EIR itself, and inside the book, if you open it up, you'll notice that there's a disc. On the disc are the technical appendices, which I have seen on a bookshelf. I think there are four more of those book-sized things sitting on a bookshelf for the technical appendices. So that's why we have not printed them all out. However, if there's portions of a technical appendix that you would like to see printed, we would do that, but we are asking people not to have us reproduce the whole technical appendices all the time for everyone. We also are having meetings that the consultant is going to come in and talk about what's in the plan. I have emailed those meetings out to the committee. They are on June 18th. On June 18th, the meeting will be about the introduction, the project description, land use, and alternatives. On June 20th, the meeting will be about traffic, air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, and noise. On June 25th, it will be about public utilities, public services, recreation, and energy. On June 27th, we will conclude with hazards, biological resources, historic resources, and whatever remaining topics are there. The presentations were scheduled from 7 to 8:30 in this room. So for the next couple of weeks, if you don't know what you're doing on a Tuesday or Thursday night, come down and join us. If you're not able to attend the session, they will be videotaped, or whatever we call it nowadays, because I guess it's not videotaping anymore. They will be videoed, and they will be available to be reviewed at a later time.
How late, I mean, how quickly would those be available?
You know, no one's told me. I just was told that we available at a later time. I would imagine fairly quickly. It doesn't take us much time to copy a disc.
Okay.
Stuart, I have a question about this. Is it possible to get this on
It is,
disc?
I believe that's also part of your disc.
Oh, you think both the
I think so.
Appendices and the main.
report and the appendices are on
I
it?
believe so. If, I will check with that, but yes, it is no problem having that on a disk or a thumb drive or whatever electronic version of it you would like.
Okay, because this is not very portable.
That is not very portable, but, you know, you're not going on an airplane too far.
So my suggestion for the portability of this is, and how I'm going to approach it, is I have a smaller binder at home, and so I'm going to take out sections and put it in the smaller binder for easy reading, and so I don't squish my cat or something while I'm reading this, and put them back into the main binder as I go through the whole thing. And I think it'll be easier to do that way.
Right. So are we reviewing the executive summary first and starting there, or just diving in, or?
I think that we should review the executive summary first, and then, Stuart, there's certain sections that we're responsible for reviewing, correct?
I believe so.
Do you know?
Not top of my head, I can let you know.
Okay, so if you could send us a note on the sections that we are absolutely responsible for reviewing and commenting on, then we can focus our initial energies on that after we do the executive review.
And then, Michelle, are you thinking that when we talk about this at the next meeting, which I won't be at, that we'll talk about the executive summary and divide up the work? Is that kind of how you're thinking about it?
I'm not sure, and that was where I really want some feedback from everyone here, because I feel that for the sections that the committee is responsible for, if they're not too onerous, we should all
Right.
do it together.
Okay. So not divide it up?
No, but then the rest of it, I think that we should also review, and I'm not sure how to do that. So I guess it depends on how many sections. I mean, it's huge, and we might divide up the appendices that go with our sections, so that if there are any, they're relevant for our sections, but I'm not sure how to exactly approach it, because I haven't seen it before, haven't looked at it.
Go ahead, Mary.
I think we're responsible for reviewing the EIR in general. I don't think nobody says, you don't have to review this part or that part.
I think there were I think at the time that this was done, I think things like the greenhouse gas emissions, the air quality, the energy, the biological resources, I think those council asked the committee to specifically look at. They didn't tell the committee, don't look at, you can't look at everything.
Right.
But I think they've asked for your comments on certain specific items. And I think that was done 2 or 3 years before I actually joined your committee. And I think it's been a while since they.
I mean, I would think that, well, I would hope that the people who are new to the committee, including everyone, would understand that, there's this, we're not supposed to comment on what the buildings look like, and architecture and, that kind of stuff. And everybody knows that. But if it has an environmental, if there's an environmental impact, then we are allowed to comment on it. And
Right.
yeah.
But I think there were certain sections that they did ask, because they've asked the Parks and Recreation Commission to comment on, the historic resources specifically. And I think they've asked the Open Space and Ecology to specifically comment on some, but not that it precluded
Okay.
the committee from commenting on everything.
Well, maybe you can remind us of what those things we were specifically asked to comment on are.
And now that we actually have a table of contents and an executive summary, it might be a lot easier for us to know which ones we are expected to comment on by the council, and then we'll highlight the ones that we also want to comment on because we feel that they're relevant.
Yeah, I read I haven't looked at the chart in the executive summary, but I read the executive summary, and it wasn't very helpful to me. I mean, I'm glad, obviously the environmentally preferred alternative would be the renewable energy plan. That I'm pleased that appears in the executive summary. It's certainly if it should have been that. But as for the rest of the report, it didn't have any detail at all. So I don't know how much, for me, the executive summary has not been very helpful. Maybe going through this chart will make things stick out, but. Ready yet? I'm wondering if it might not be reasonable for us to try to get through, just read the first 3 chapters, which I think gets us up to page 81 for the next meeting, if I'm reading this table of
So
contents.
introduction, executive summary, and project description?
Yeah, for next meeting. I won't be here, but I will do the reading. And then, it seems to me that the biggest thing we have to decide is whether we're going to divvy this up or whether whether we're going to do it as a joint effort, which is fine with me.
I think that the devil is going to be in the details, and I think that's the part that's on here.
You mean the appendices?
Yeah. I think that's where we're going to find the most information we're really going to need to delve into.
I just saw property of the city of Brisbane, and I'm already taking notes in it. Am I allowed to write in this?
It's yours.
Okay, good. I just had
Just
a moment.
cross out that city of Brisbane. And name it.
You just can't republish it, Barbara.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was not defacing public property.
Yeah, you can't put a sexy cover on this and then farm it out as your own work.
Because that's so what I would want to do.
Yeah,
I
okay.
can see a bodice ripped.
Yeah,
If you start writing it, you're not going to be able to sell it on eBay for the same amount.
Okay.
Just warning you.
Really. So that sounds like a good plan, and if we can read through more than that before the next meeting, that would also be really good.
Yeah, I think the first 3, yeah. I think the first, the meat of the report is in the 4th chapter.
Well, should we
Right.
try to go for 4 chapters?
I think it's going to be.
Might as well, that's, yeah.
No.
No?
The 4th chapter is 3/4 of this
Okay.
report. So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, well, maybe not, maybe 2/3.
Okay.
So, yeah. So what do you envision happening at the next meeting after we've read these 3 chapters? I mean, I'm really kind of bothered about being gone because I'm going to miss the next meeting where I guess decisions will be made on, how we go about this. So I guess I'm trying to rush things so that I have some idea.
Anybody who's missing the meeting is going to be responsible for all the technical appendices. No pressure, though.
Thanks, Steve. I'm a great believer in that people are going to work on what they want, are going to focus on what they want to focus on. I agree that to the extent possible, we should all think about each one of these aspects, but I'm going to focus. So what I intend to do is go through the first 3 chapters and then start picking around. I'm going to look at biological resources and I'm going to look at the mitigation hazards and hazardous materials. Those.
Can I ask a question of the committee? I know that we had some training in the overall CEQA process or whatever, but the overall goal and objective of our review is it to provide comments, to provide a recommendation? Like, what is the ultimate deliverable that?
To provide comments on the document as to what from an environmental perspective, what you think the document may need to have additional work done on.
Okay, so request for more information would be
I think like this says, that we need, there isn't enough information to prove this point. Maybe it might be a comment or, something like that.
Okay, great, thanks.
So basically, it's kind of our job to poke holes in it.
It's your
Yes.
your job to make comments about what you think is lacking in the document.
Silly
Or
question.
on the other side, if you think something's really good, you can comment on that.
I
I don't
just
think
can't,
people do that very often, though.
I'm just too tired at the moment to remember off the top of my head. How long do we have to comment on this again?
120 days
So 3 months, roughly.
or 4.
What's the date then of that? If it was released yesterday, what's
October 8th,
October 8th?
5 p.m.
So that would be by the time the day in the park happens.
Yes.
And that's the due date for the whole draft EIR, but what's our due date to the city council? Because then they'll want to review all that information and comment also.
I don't know if they get to comment on the draft EIR, because they're making a judgment on the EIR. So I don't know if they actually comment on the EIR.
Well, they have to have time to review our comments. Does that happen after October?
No, so what happens is people comment on the draft EIR, then it goes back to the consultant to respond to the comments on the draft EIR, and then they release another version, and then that starts going through the planning process. So it would go through the planning commission and it would go through the city council.
Okay.
Our comments will go straight to the consultant.
Right.
Or we'll go straight to the planning.
Well, go to the consultant and then the planning, right.
Right.
And then the consultant will comment on the comments or respond to comments.
Okay.
So I propose that the way we do this is, and I'm looking at chapter 4, that one of us, for each of these items, A, B, C, and so on, that we each pick 1 or 2 and present them to the committee, but that everybody read all of them. But one person kind of take the lead of the discussion for that particular item. So Mary, would lead the discussion about noxious effluvia. I don't see that on. It's hazards and hazardous materials. That's how I propose that we do it. So one person would do more work in terms of really doubling down on something and, probably writing some notes for discussion, but everybody would have read it. Sort of like a graduate seminar kind of thing.
Okay. How does everyone else think about that?
Well, are we all good in separate subjects? I mean, what if our,
Yeah. So how I intend to approach this, and how I hope that everyone does, is, you keep a list of all the questions that you have as you go through it and keep it in the order in which this is, and any questions, concerns, et cetera, et cetera. And then when we have the discussion on each group. I agree with having a different person lead each discussion, just because we will get more out of it that way, especially people who have more expertise in certain areas. But I don't want anyone to think that because, like, Glenn or Mary's going to read a section on, effluviant or whatever, that the rest of us should not keep our sharp eyes out. Because one thing that I've really noticed over the last year is that there are things that I think I'm on top of something, and then someone else points something out, and I'm like, wow, I just blew right by that,
Right.
No,
that's not what I meant. I just meant one person, probably the one with, interest or expertise, would take charge of presenting a section to the rest of the group and take the lead with presenting their comments, but that everybody would read everything and comment on everything.
I just had a slightly, I'm sorry, to kind of derail Glenn's thoughts here, but I'm just sort of looking at the quantity, like this section in the middle here, this is chapter 4.
Right.
And then this is chapter 1 through 3, and this is chapter 5, 6, and 7. And I was just thinking, maybe for the next meeting, what if we read 1 through 3, and then 5, 6, and 7? And then once we sort of like shaved off either end, then we could tackle section 4. I'm just afraid if we only do the first 3,
Right. I see.
that we're going to not have enough time to address the meat of the DEIR the way we need to. And so, I know that would double what we just said we would do for the next meeting, but I hate to get into number 4 before we've had another meeting to be able to talk about how we're going to approach it. Does that, I think I made sense there. I think I said what I wanted to say. But I was just going to suggest that we do actually 6 chapters, 3 beginning and the 3 ending for the next.
I would propose maybe we, without necessarily committing to reading all of section 4, we just kind of look at the sections in an overview to understand what are the ones that we might be most interested in, like Glenn says, that graduate seminar format, which are the ones that we would be interested in tackling, because like you said, it is the meat of it, and that's probably where we're going to have to focus the most of our energy. So I guess I'm agreeing with you, and also saying maybe if we could take a brief preview of 4 to see what are the ones that jump out at us the most.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, to come to the next meeting with what number 4s you think you would like to do.
So I guess I should just email my preferences to somebody? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we'll let you lead the discussion on as many as you want. We don't have to divvy it up evenly. Well, but we all, I think we all are taking this very seriously. And in certain areas, you have more expertise. And Mary has a lot of expertise and experience with working with the CAG. We're going to be relying heavily
We have a
on.
desperate citizen who wants to get in. What do we do?
Oh, he's just teasing us.
He's just saying that he's finished with his meeting and he's just gloating.
We're not.
We're not, yeah.
He doesn't drop that on his foot.
Really, because he's our number 1 volunteer and we put a serious
Let him know
agenda.
that. That's for sure.
Yeah, now that I look at chapters 5, 6, and 7, I noticed that chapter 7 is the one on sustainability, and I know that the mayor is going to want us to look at that very seriously.
Yeah, and 6.1 is nothing either. Significant and unavoidable environmental impacts.
Yeah.
It seems to me that if we read 1 through 3 and skimmed 4 to get ideas about which, what particularly interested us, it seems up to me that of the last 3 chapters, the sustainability chapter might make the most sense to read right now, because it's not clear how much sense chapters 5 and 6 are going to make without our having read the chapter 4. So I would propose
an amendment to Barbara's amendment to my suggestion, which is that we read,
Oh, you cheeky thing.
I know, 1 through 3, that we skim 4, and that we read 7 for next time.
Okay,
That's plenty.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
so we're going to do
There's always a
1 through 3, 7, and skim 4.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Everybody down with that?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, everybody got their glasses polished?
Cataract surgery on the 25th.
Oh, you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then, I don't know if you want to notate it on your book itself or keep a separate log of questions in order, but however you guys want to do it that's most effective so that you can go through it as we do it. And Stuart, you're going to bring back to us that, for the next meeting, really clear expectations of what the council would like from us,
I
right?
think there was a memo that happened years ago.
Yeah. Find that. That would be really helpful. Yes. We want to make sure that we exceed their expectations. Right? Okay. And then I highly recommend that everybody either come to or watch all 4 of those meetings. And Stuart, I believe you have, don't we still have a CD from the last go-round when he was explaining CEQA, or is he covering all that again?
No, that's completely different. So yeah, there is a CD on that as well.
And it would not hurt to review that if possible.
Is that still on the website also?
Probably.
No. Okay.
Okay. Oh, Sean, we made you chairman of the Day in the Park.
Oh, nice.
And gave you,
Unanimously.
and they also gave you, I don't know, they said they're splitting it by chapter. So you have
Yeah,
chapter
chapter
4 to read.
4, yeah.
So there were 7 chapters and you got 4. I just,
This is chapter 4.
You have to have it by the end of the meeting.
I tried, Sean. I said, no, that's, but then I said, no, actually, he probably could do it. He's really good.
We all insisted.
That's what happens when you're late. Wait till you see what we do to Glenn when she's not here.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have this discussion now. I anticipated that.
So all joking aside,
All joking aside, we're going to read chapters 1 through 3 and 7 and the executive summary. Well, the executive summary is chapter 1.
Chapter 2.
Or 2, something like that.
And skim 4.
And we're going to skim 4 for our next meeting. And what we're planning to do is everybody reads everything, but for the areas that we want to focus on, different people will lead the discussion on those chapters, so we kind of rotate through the whole group.
okay.
And so you would pick the chapters that you are most interested in leading, and so would everyone else, and then we'll divvy them up, the leadership of that chapter, but everyone will be responsible for reading every chapter. And then Stuart will tell us what our obligations are that the council would like us to make sure that we comment on, and then we expect to exceed their expectations,
As you often do,
as we all.
if not always.
Okay. So are we done with, and then June 18th, June 20th, June 25th, and June 27th are 4 different CEQA presentations, right?
Yes.
On the different areas.
And they are in this room from 7 to 8:30.
And they will also be available on DVD
Yes.
and on the city website. And we should all review all 4 of those. So that's a lot of time, but it's really, I think, essential. And then if we can go back and review the meeting that we had with, is it the same fellow that's going to be presenting?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
No, ESA is going to be.
Yeah, I think it's the people who actually did the EIR that will be presenting.
okay.
The EIR.
And it would behoove everyone to go back and review the DVD from, what was his name? Art? Or- Rivas, yeah, when he discussed the CEQA process. It would be a really good review of anybody who doesn't want to watch summertime TV.
Or lay on the beach.
Or lay on the
go for a
beach.
walk, or, if
Yeah.
you get tired of all those outdoor activities.
Yeah,
I plan on picking up a nice CRT tan.
yeah. And also, I suggested that you get a smaller binder and take chapters out and read them and then put them back in.
Are you spoiling us with highlighters?
If you want a highlighter, come see me. I won't tell anybody, just as long as no one in the public knows, okay?
Yeah.
I don't want to make it public. Oh, wait.
Isn't that how you got in trouble before, Stuart? Yeah.
As a committee member, I'm sure we could supply you with a highlighter if you need
Yeah.
it.
Do you not have any, like, spare smaller binders, do you? That would be helpful, too.
How
Well, if you
thick?
go to any thrift store, they've got piles of them.
Yeah.
How thick? I mean, what size do you want? Half inch, 1 inch, 2 inch?
I think no more than this for handy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This size,
Yeah, it's something that weighs less than a pound.
so 1 inch.
Yeah, inch at a time. Okay, and then the next item on the agenda, well, just to go backtrack for the Open Space and Ecology Committee Day in the Park, we're going to have to kind of work on that because this, at the same time, and we talked about focusing on invasives, making pants bags, the footprint calendar, the calculator, the carbon footprint calculator, maybe introducing it at that. But your, what was it, soil thing last year was so wildly popular that we've decided that you're going to chair this. With your permission.
The carbon footprint,
The biochar.
the biochar?
Yeah, that was so popular. Now we go to the approval of the minutes from the May 8th, but you didn't attach any minutes.
I got it.
I got it. How come what was wrong with me? How come I didn't get it?
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I got it. Here they are. Back of my packet. I have extra packets if you like, Michelle.
Oh, maybe they're on this.
It's like the last 4 or 5 pages.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have
Oh,
it.
okay. Oh, sure enough.
I missed it. Okay. So does anyone have any changes or comments on the minutes?
I have one, third page of gag update. Third sentence, the Department of Toxic Substance Control, which should really be capitalized, is not requiring ongoing gas testing of buildings at the Schlage site.
Okay.
But it's not the capitalization that I'm concerned about, it's putting in at the Schlage site.
Okay.
Got it.
Are there any other changes to the minutes? Is there a motion to,
Move approval as amended?
all those in favor?
Aye.
So that was well done for Tony's first time doing minutes.
Very good. And now we need to set the next meeting date.
I'm counting July 10th, I think is the next meeting, is the second Wednesday in July.
Wednesday, July 10th, does that meet with everyone's
That's fine.
reading schedule? 6:30? Okay. Is there any other business that we need to conduct tonight?
I want to make a peep.
Okay.
I had asked that the bike to work thing be on today's.
Oh,
Did that get deliberately left off?
No.
or- Okay, but we can't actually talk about it because it isn't on the thing, right?
what do you want to say?
I just wanted to say that it was a great event,
You can say that.
and that I think we should, as a committee, be involved with it next year, and actually make some effort to support it, because biking to work is a wonderful way to reduce your carbon footprint. And working out there, I had an idea that we should have a big map so that people who come by can actually, and some pens, so that the bikers can actually mark their courses on the map, so we can see where people are going. Because some people were coming from like San Francisco to Palo Alto or something, crazy like that. And I just thought that would be really fun, so I was wondering if maybe the city could provide us with some sort of easel next year. Because I'm definitely doing it again. It was a blast.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
We can talk about that more as we get closer to it.
Okay.
Okay. And just the other thing too, if anyone has any items for the agenda or any suggestions of things that we need to work on, please don't hesitate to bring them up, both to Stuart and to me, and we'll incorporate them into the agenda, even though the next couple of meetings will be heavily focused on the EIR. As I said earlier, the world doesn't stop just for this. And so if there's urgent item, I did have one other kind of urgent item. What the heck is going on the backside of Tulare Hill? That there's a cat up there making roads again. You don't know?
I drive by there or walk by there, there's a cat up there. I agree. I don't know. I'll ask Randy.
Okay. And I want to know if they have a site activity permit and if they have a take permit.
What? Take.
Take permit, that's part of the HCP. So they need a take permit in order to be doing what they're doing.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else, or are we adjourned?
For next meeting, I'm just going to say it now, so I don't have to remember to send a bloody email. I noticed this grand jury report on water recycling, and I thought maybe we could just have 5 minutes of our next meeting devoted to that.
That would be good.
It's right on the lobby here.
It was in the packet, it was one of the items that was approved on the council meeting
Last 2
not
weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
with the,
Yeah.
whatever.
But I think it would be really good because
Sure.
we really are water's gonna become the next gold,
Yeah.
along with air. And water resources, we really need to use them a lot better than we do now.
Okay.
Okay. Can I have a carry out to the car? Oh, no. This meeting is officially adjourned.
Probably should take a motion.
Oh, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I so move.
Who? Kima? Kima was one, and who second?
I'll second.
Well,
Barbara.
actually, Sean got it in there before you
Okay.
were.
No, that's okay. The official minutes will show Barbara.
Okay. All those in favor?
Sorry, Sean.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.